Well, thanks again for making the time and tuning in. My name is Jeff Fuller, Jay Fuller Interviews. Jay Fuller Interviews on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And now the Backfire podcast with Jeff Fuller of Jay Fuller Interviews on Apple iTunes and Google Podcasts. We believe people's stories matter. We can learn a lot as we listen and learn from one another. Unlearn what you thought was right, relearn what is right, one with a great story. And welcome back, Greg Jaloszynski. How are you, Greg?
I'm doing great. How you doing today?
I'm well, and thanks for your thoughts and prayers. And it's just so interesting the relationships you meet. And of course, you went to college with my brother, played basketball on the ENC basketball team. And then now, what? A few years later, we're just discussing life and
Yeah,
life that has health issues and ups and downs. But what a great joy it is to have a faith and friendship that helps us through these details and these things that happen. So, let me just start right there. When you look back at your college years, did you have this life dreamed out for you way back then?
oh man, no. My wife and I were just having this conversation a couple weeks ago. I said, "Did you, when we first met, did you think this is how everything was going to go?" And yeah, it's been quite a ride since college. I had a dream to be doing what I'm doing, like when I was in college, but I had no idea the scale of it and what God was going to do with it. So it's been a wild ride since college, but it's been good. It's been real
And,
good.
and before we talk about 12throck.org, 12throck.org, uh, what's your earliest memory of sports? Was it playing in the backyard with your dad, siblings? What's your first memory of sports?
So I grew up in Minnesota, and my earliest memory is I had a core group of guys that we played. We basically played soccer together, then we played basketball together, and then we played little league together. We were always on the same team, and I just had a great group of guys that we played pickup football and yeah, since I was in kindergarten, man. So T-ball era, and then flag football and soccer in the snow, and yeah, I've been playing sports my whole life. So um, since I was a little guy.
And Greg, you find Greg on Instagram right here at Greg JLo, and
Yep.
I think about sports and what they mean. But for me, basketball was always great. Of course, I had my older brother to shoot around with. But even when he went to college or he was away, basketball you can always do on your own. Was
Absolutely.
that something that you enjoyed about basketball more, or were you just more naturally gifted at basketball than other sports?
I love the fact that you can just go out and shoot around, and I always enjoyed working on my game. So I and it was a good mental release for me. If I was just having a bad day, I would just grab a basketball and go out and shoot hoops by myself. And that was kind of my time to have some conversations with God and be alone and just shoot. And I would shoot for hours. Just it was a good stress reliever for me.
Well, I
Yeah,
agree
go
with
out and
that.
shoot. Yeah.
If you could return, and you shared in the first interview about what brought you to Eastern Nazarene College, the home of the Crusaders, now the Lions. But
Yeah.
for you, I love the story because sometimes Christian colleges are not well known or they're overlooked. But for you, could you just share what led you to ENC?
Uh, Coach Fleming was the only college basketball coach that would even have a conversation with me because coming out of high school, I was 5'10", 125-pound guard. And I had at least 10 to 15 college coaches say I would never play at the college level. And Coach Fleming saw my film and he talked to me my entire senior season. I talked to him every week, and he was the guy that just he was the guy that just poured into me, and that's why I ended up there. So the one guy that gave me a chance. That's why
What
I ended
posi-
up there.
what position did you play? Were you a point guard or shooting
I
guard?
was a point and shooting guard. Yeah, yeah. So in high school, I was the smallest guy on the court all the time, and but I probably had the most fire on the court because I was the smallest guy. Yeah.
So we're going back a few years, and for me, Jeff Lebo, I liked watching him at Carolina. Chris Corchiani, he was a good
Yep.
guard at the ACC. Who did you kind of pattern your game after in high school?
Oh, um, man, that's a tough question. I liked Fire and Ice from North Carolina, like those guys, man. They were. I loved watching those guys, and I was a big North Carolina and a Kansas fan back then, but I didn't really. I never mimicked anybody's jump shot or any of that stuff. I had to make my game my own because of just who I was playing against. So yeah, but I loved watching the smaller guys be successful. Steve Nash, I'm a big fan of Steve Nash, and just his longevity and the way he played the game. That was huge.
So we are going to talk about 12throck.org, 12throck.org, which you've been a part of for a long time now. But Kyrie Irving, super talented, coached by Steve Nash. If you were
Yep.
Steve Nash, what would you do with Kyrie?
I'd let I I'm yeah, boy, you're getting into a tough discussion right here. I let Kyrie be Kyrie, man. I'm a big if somebody stands for something and they are willing to sacrifice their finances for that, then I'd let Kyrie be Kyrie. I mean, that's me as a that's always been me as a coach, and I would just figure out how to coach him well when he's on the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Greg Jaloszynski, make some time at 12throck.org. We'll bring up the website right here. And for you, it's been phenomenal for me to watch from a distance. I got to interview you right in the middle of COVID, and I guess it continues to labor on and on. But
Yeah.
it seems as though you guys have had great success, even though these past 2 years for so many have been disruptive and difficult. What do you think it is that you've been able to move forward and adapt so well?
I think it relates to the reason why I ended up playing college basketball. I never took no for an answer. I never gave up. My brother's the same way, and we God told us to do this, and we know He's got our backs. So we just kept pressing forward. So like when the pandemic hit, we lost all of our basketball programming because we lost all access to schools and inside facilities basically. So
Yeah.
we sat in the office when this all started going down, and we're like, how are we going to keep our heads above water for the next year or however long this thing lasts? And we went after outdoor events. So that's what we did. And we figured out how to manage all of the restrictions and all the different protocol that had to happen because of the pandemic. And it was amazing. We were in front of, during the pandemic, during 2020, we were in front of almost 10,000 people.
Wow.
Through cross country races and outdoor throws meets. And we saw just this past summer, we saw 7 people qualify for Olympic trials at our property. And it's just been a wild year and a half through the pandemic. And God has blessed us financially. We keep the project moving forward, and we keep donations keep coming in. So there's no explanation other than God taking care of it, because on the human side of things, we should have folded. But
No, Greg, where's your facility located?
Middletown, New York, so about an hour north of New York City.
Now, you mentioned some of the outdoor events. Were you familiar with those sports, or was there a learning curve for those sports, or was it just kind of figuring out the space to utilize the people coming in to participate? 12throck.org.
We are not neither my brother or myself. My brother runs to stay in shape, but neither of us know much about the track and field world. So we did a lot of surrounding ourselves with professionals that know the sports. And really, what was the win for us is that we were kind of naive. We were naive to what the sports brought. So we looked at it from the angle of how do we be a great host,
Hmm.
and how do we run an event well, and how do we make sure the big word was make sure everybody's safe, right? Like, so our check-in process and how our volunteers handled everything. And the cross country world, every single race, we heard comments like, we've never seen anybody do it this way. We really like it. It's well run. Everything's organized. You guys are running on time. And that's what we were going after. If we can run events well, then people will keep coming back. And I mean, we have a race in November that we're anticipating 12 to 1,500 runners. And
Wow.
it's like, that's nothing we did. That's just, we were organized and people are coming back now. So it's pretty cool to watch it all happen.
That's really good, and congratulations. On Instagram, it's 12th Rock Sports. 12th Rock Sports. So many leadership lessons. I think you guys could probably write a book now. I think the one thing that stands out to me is you kind of found your niche or stayed in your lane. Not that to be derogatory, but
Yeah.
so many times leaders want to do everything. How difficult was that for you, or did that come naturally just to say, this is what we do, and we'll let others kind of take the lead in certain roles?
I learned it a long time ago that partnering with people that do things well and not trying to do everything is one, it expands your network of people, like your contacts, and it also shows people that you're willing to step outside yourself and bring in others that are better at that aspect of it. So like any type of partnerships we can develop, we are all about that because it brings new perspective. It brings new people to the table that have a different ideas, and it's cool to watch all that work together. And I think the pandemic helped in that aspect because everybody was struggling, and they're like, okay, so if we partner with you guys, what does this look like? And they had to step outside themselves to work together with how we wanted to run things. And we stretched people a little bit, and they were like, man, I didn't think it could be done this way. And we learned a lot, and they learned a lot, and it helped. The bottom line is it helped athletes and families stay involved in sports during the pandemic because kids needed to be active and they needed to be out and about and not sitting at home.
Definitely, and certainly being a part of a team and even physically distanced, it's so good to know that life is just bigger than yourself. As I've mentioned before, and you're well aware of, I'm really close to my brother, and you partnered with your brother. What does that look like to be in a business relationship with a sibling?
So we've been in business together since we were 14 years old. So going on, man, 33 years. So it's it's an interesting dynamic. Both of us have great skills that we bring to the table. Um, so it's been a great balancing act. God definitely gave us different personalities, different things that we're good at, and we've been able to make it work. We've been able to make it work.
So whose idea was it? Was it your brother's idea and you jumped on board, or did you have to convince him to use his skill set to get involved with what you were doing?
I had to convince him. Yeah, we this organization has been a dream of mine since I was at ENC, and he's a landscape. His degree is in landscape design and architecture. So when we got out of college, that's the business we ran. So I went with him and followed his dream for a while, and then we both have a passion for reaching people through sports. It just was not a full-time passion for him, and but a few years, it's going on 11 years ago is when we sold our landscape company and just went full into this thing. So yeah, we're all in, and we're all in for the long haul. So it's cool to watch it all work out.
Definitely, Greg. And again, it's 12th Rock Sports on Instagram, 12th Rock Sports on Instagram, 12throck.org if you want more information. You mentioned donations, and are you guys a nonprofit?
Yes, we're a 501c3. Yes.
So how can people get involved, whether it's a denomination, whether it's a church district, local church, or just individuals that just see what you're doing, the emphasis on helping people and utilizing, God's creation and that aspect of his salvation for others. How can people get involved and either donate their time or make financial donations as well?
Best thing to do is just go to that website, and there's a donate button, there's a get involved button, and just if you want to, just reach out to me, contact me, and we'll get you. We can get you plugged in. But we manage about 150 to 200 volunteers throughout the year to get all of our stuff operating. So we're always looking for people to plug in and get involved. But on the financial level, we are trying to do this project debt free, and so far God is honoring that, and we're going to just keep pushing forward. But there's a huge need for this facility that we're looking to build in our area. It's going to cover about a 6-hour radius from our area. That's where we're seeing people travel from, so we're excited to see the thing get built.
Talk about this facility. What is all it's going to entail? Can you just share a little bit?
Yep. So one side of it is going to be a 200-meter indoor track with 8 sprint lanes and areas for the long jump, triple jump, high jump. There's seating, like stadium seating of about 1,200 that overlook the track facility. And the thing with that is there is not an indoor track facility outside of New York City and Long Island.
Wow.
The next closest one would be 4 or 5 hours from us in upstate New York. So it's a huge deal in our area as far for Connecticut, New Jersey. I mean, we had athletes here this weekend from Massachusetts and New Mexico and Illinois. So like people are coming. And then the other side of it is basketball and volleyball facility. And then there's a huge corporate meeting space in the middle of the building. But it's a little under 2 acres, the complex inside. So it's going to be one of the largest indoor areas within the Hudson Valley and in the New York region. So very
That's
exciting.
amazing. Yeah, congratulations. So exciting. I know for us here in Vermont, there's a big discussion because the high schools are always fighting for gym time in particular. And we're just saying, how could a local church or several churches get involved to meet that community need? Have you seen the community surround what you're doing, or have they found it some sort of competition for what they're trying to do?
No, every person that walks on the property says you guys can't get this place built fast enough. Like they're just, I mean, even this weekend we were blessed. We had the Special Olympics athletes from the Hudson Valley and the New York region join us we hosted a Rose Clinic and had 2 current Olympians and 2 previous Olympians that coached were doing the instruction. But on Sunday, we had 21 Special Olympic athletes join us for a javelin clinic.
Wow.
And the Special Olympics chair was like, you guys got to get this building built because they're running out of space. So it's just, space is a huge thing around here because you're basically looking at like end of October to late March, early April, where teams of all sports are looking for indoor space and the schools can't accommodate it. So it's a massive need and the community is heavily behind it. Yeah.
So Greg Jaloszynski makes some time, and probably a silly question, but I know that I'd probably do it, or at least when I was younger. Do you ever challenge your brother to a foot race or to participate in those archery events or to throw a javelin? Is that something where you feel like you didn't grow up with, but you would like to try it now that it's available to you?
Oh, we compete all the time in everything. So, yes, he is a much better archer than I am. Way better archer, but he still cannot beat me on a basketball court. So, yeah.
Do you still find time to play, or are you so busy with work that it's hard to get that outlet anymore?
Oh no, I still play. I have 3 sons. One's 20 about to be 21. One's about to be 20, and one's about to be 17. Still can't beat me in one-on-one yet, but man, we have some great. Oh man, we have some great games in the driveway. So a lot of 2-on-2 with my boys, and then we have a group of guys that have sons all the same age that we'll go play 4-on-4 with, and get out and run with the young guys. So yeah, I still get out and play.
That's so good and important to continue. How have you been able to find that healthy rhythm, some say balance, between a project that takes so much work, so much financing and resources, to having a good sense of mental health and proper awareness of who God is and what he's done in your life?
I still have not perfected it. My wife tells me all the time I work too much. So, yeah, I try to just find moments, like even yesterday, I had a whole plan when I woke up, and then I ended up just tossing it and went and played some golf with my son, and that was so healthy. So I think that's the beauty of being self-employed, is that you can go, you know what, I'm just going to take the rest of the day off and go and chill out on the golf course or go shoot some hoops. But yeah, I don't do a good enough job of checking out all the time. So I got to get better at it.
And Greg, again, Greg Jaloszynski makes up time at 12throck.org, 12throck.org if you want more information. And I just, whether it's Eastern Nazarene College or just growing up, I tell my son who's 19, there are some things that only experience can teach, and experience takes time. Looking back, how much have you had to grow and develop personally since you were, a freshman in college?
Oh, you're learning something new every day. And so like I have had to grow up so much since I got to college, because when back to that story of being the little guy, I had a fire that sometimes was too much. Like, I was over the top, and I remember being with Coach Fleming here, and he's like, "You're a good player. You just play with your team." And because I always try to back it up with like talking to the other guys, and he's like, "Just let your game do the talking." So like on the basketball court, I would just, from that point on, if I hit a three on somebody, I would just smile at him. I wouldn't even say anything. When before, I would always have something to.
Unfortunately, we just lost Greg at Greg JLo on Instagram. It's 12throck.org, and on Instagram it's 12th Rock Sports, 12th Rock Sports. I'll hopefully get him back soon. I believe it's an internet connection, but the rest of their life, value youth sports experience, and I think we have Greg back on. So Greg, I apologize. I'm not sure if that was your internet or not, but thanks so much for jumping on. So you were sharing that story about you used to talk a little bit when you made a three, then you found comfort just to smile after you made that. Continue with that story.
Yep. Yeah, so that's what I ended up doing, and I think that was more damaging for the opponent because I never said anything. They were like, "This guy doesn't even say anything; he just smiles." Yeah, so, but I think that goes with a lot of things you do in life. I think you just gotta let your actions speak louder than your words, and that's been what we do within 12th Rock. We get to ask that question a lot by church people, like, how much are you like intentionally sharing the gospel, and how much of it is just, I'm all about intentionally sharing the gospel, but I think there's more power in people seeing how you operate and then asking why you operate that way. Because talk is cheap sometimes. Yeah. And I think in today's world, people see a lot of people talking and not backing it up with their actions. I would rather see people see me working hard for the Lord and then go, why is this guy doing all this stuff? Like, why are they doing this? And we've seen great fruit from that, rather than talking too much, just letting God speak through our actions.
Oh, there's wisdom in that. And Greg, we're going to let you go on this question. And you said that you kind of had this dream since your days in college, and that was, a couple decades ago. For those that have given up on their dreams or their God-given dreams, what advice would you tell them?
My biggest thing is pray about it and then just trust God, because when you just let everything go and let God take over, it's amazing what happens. Like I could tell stories for hours about, like, in my humanness going, why do I keep doing this? And then God just shows up, and God just shows up, and God just shows up. So it might not, he might not be calling you to just walk away from your business or walk away from a good job and go into full-time ministry. But if he's calling you to do something, do it. Don't ignore it, because the more you ignore it, the more miserable you get in your life, because you're ignoring what God's actually called you to do. Yeah.
And it's awesome how full-time ministry can look very different than just being a pastor on Sunday, even though I appreciate those that pastor on Sunday. But it's just amazing the opportunities that God has for us. The last word for you, 12th Rock, 12throck.org. What are some things coming up this fall that for those in your area they might be interested in even participating in or volunteering for?
Okay, so we have an archery program that's running right now. We have runners club that's running. We have some cross country races in November. We have a farmer strong run, which is like a Spartan race style thing that we're doing in November. Hopefully and prayerfully, we'll be running our basketball programs this winter. Just got to secure some facility for that. And then so those are some of the things that are current. We do have some throws meets left. If anybody that's a track and field person, we have a few throws meets as well. So quite a lot on the schedule.
Awesome. Hey, Greg,
But
thanks
all
so
of that
much
can be found on our website.
That sounds great. And that's 12throck.org. Greg, thanks so much for making the time. We wish you all the best. Continued prayers for you and your family, and be blessed as God provides. And take some time to beat your son, because you probably won't always be able to beat him, or at least I wasn't for my son. So anyway, enjoy.
Exactly. Thank you, guys.
Again, that's Greg Jaloszynski, 12throck.org. You can find more information. My name is Jeff Fuller, Jay Fuller Interviews on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And now the Backfire podcast with Jeff Fuller of Jay Fuller Interviews on Apple iTunes and Google Podcasts. Thanks, everybody.